Demon's Souls has a group of 4 animal warriors that go unused in the final game. All 4 models share the same first part of their model viewer names, which translate to Barbarian Beast Warriors Spirit, or Spirit of the Barbarian Warrior Beast, but they all feature different words after the interpunct. From left to right, Wolf for C2040, Bear for C2050, Hyena for C2060, and Owl for C2140. Like all the unused enemies in Demon's Souls, there seems to be no proper working AI for them, so loading them into the game will just cause them to stand still like this. C2040 is that of an anthropomorphic wolf wearing barbarian-esque armour. It holds a curved sword and is a fair bit taller than the player, about half a person taller. The model has a pretty complete animation list, with animations for walking, running, taking damage, falling, etc. Some of the most notable parts of the wolf's animations is that it has a backstab animation and 2 animations for being parried, but no riposte animation. The 2 parry animations have sound, but no parry sound, weirdly enough. It features a surprisingly high amount of attack animations, 10 in total, and it has block animations, including blocking with its sword while running, and having their block broken. It also features an attack animation of it picking up something and throwing it, though unfortunately we don't know what it would have thrown, maybe dirt or some sand. The death animations appear to be the most incomplete part of the animation set, which is a recurring theme for the Barbarian Beast Warriors. The wolf has 2 unique death animations, a standard one, and one from death by backstab, both of which have audio. However, it also has 6 more death animations which are seemingly identical to the standard death animation but with no audio. These are presumably placeholders before other death animations are created, as these slots are usually used for other death animations like death by fire or just alternate death animations. C2040 is also apparently set to load in a test map according to the Wikidot, but I wasn't able to confirm this myself. I checked all of the test maps in DS Map Studio other than M99, 99, 98, 10 because it would crash when trying to load, and none of them had the wolf. It is possible I missed it though, so if you do know if it's actually used in a test map, please let me know. C2050 is a very large anthropomorphic bear who also wears similar barbarian-esque armour and wields a large club. It can be seen 3 times in this shot of the intro, along with some other demons. The model's animation list is very similar to the wolf's in what animations are here. There's walking, running, reacting to damage, and falling as you'd expect. Unlike the wolf, the bear only features 1 unique death animation with 7 presumed placeholders. It features much less attack animations than the wolf, with only 5 proper animations. 2 of the attacks are club swings and the other 3 are for throwing stuff. The first of the 3 throwing animations is very similar to the wolf's throwing animation, and the last 2 seem to be 2 parts of the same attack, where the bear picks up something in the first animation and throws it in the second animation. One of the params in Missile Standard is C2050 Barbarian/Bear Rubble, which is most likely for this 2-part animation attack, but unfortunately I don't know if there's an associated model or where to even find it. The last thing to know about the bear is it features an animation that looks like it being parried. Again, the animation has sound, but no parry sound effect, and there's no riposte animation. This is quite surprising considering how much bigger the bear is than the player. Typically you wouldn't be able to parry an enemy of this size. Chronologically, C2060 would be next, but it has a lot more going on than C2140, so I'll talk about the hyena after the owl. C2140 is an anthropomorphic owl who is only slightly taller than the player by about a head's worth. It's also separated from the other 3 models by its ID for some unknown reason. Unlike the previous 2 models, the owl uses magic and carries a wand instead of a melee weapon. Unfortunately, that means we won't see what any of the spells will look like in the model viewer, just the casting animations. It features walking, running, reacting to damage, and falling like the previous 2 models. Despite being shorter than the wolf, it has no backstab or parry/riposte animations. The owl easily has the least finished death animations, with only 3 in total, and 2 of the animations being broken and T-posing instead of duplicates of the first animation with no sound. The model also only features 4 attack animations, one for firing some sort of projectile from the wand presumably, 2 where they throw their arms up, and 1 where they hold up the wand for a few seconds. Without the actual spells, it's impossible to know exactly what these were supposed to be.
The owl may not have made it into the final product, but it sure would actually make it into the final game, being worn by the Shaman Depraved Ones in the Valley of Defilement.
These enemies also cast spells, or more accurately, one spell, which is this Poison Cloud attack. The Shawl model isn't quite 1-to-1, most likely to fit the smaller model, but the textures are identical, even sharing the same name. Finally, C2060 is an anthropomorphic hyena who is roughly about the same height as the owl when standing straight, but in-game they're hunched over so they're shorter than the player. The model features the same standard animations that the other models had: walking, running, taking damage, falling. Same death animations where the first one has sound and the rest are soundless duplicates. That's all it really has in the way of animations. The hyena has no backstab animations, no parry/riposte animations, and only has a singular attack animation, and it's a strange one at that. It's an attack where the hyena jumps around its invisible target and slashes and then stabs. I can't think of another attack like it in the Soulsborne games off the top of my head, it's a weird one. That's it for C2060 itself, however that's not all that there is to be said about the hyena. Firstly, the hyena and the other Barbarian Beast Warriors all appear in the OBJ folder as object models. 09504, 09505, 09510, and 09515 are duplicate models of the Barbarian Beast Warriors, and there's almost nothing I can say about them. All of them have no animation, so they just T-pose, and the owl has no textures. A lot of Demon's Souls enemies have similar models in the 9500s range, including some other unused enemies. However, the hyena has 3 other unused object models, which are 09220, 09221, and 09222, and these models actually have animations. In total, these 3 models have 6 animations, but 3 of these animations are broken, and 09221 and 09222's animations are identical, so realistically, there's only 2 unique animations for the hyena here. The first animation is of the hyena walking forwards for about 5 seconds. Unlike C2060, which will either walk forwards or in place indefinitely if the animation is locked or unlocked, 09220 will walk forwards before snapping back to its original position once the animation ends, regardless if it's locked or not. The walk animation is also quite different, looking quite similar to the player's walk animation. 09221 and 09222 both have an animation of the hyena hunching over and eating something. Without more context, I have no idea what this would be for, or why it's only on the object model version of the hyena. While the hyena went unused in Demon's Souls, it would sort of find new life, just in a different game. The infested ghouls are an enemy that appear in the upper parts of Blighttown in Dark Souls 1. Despite the similarities to the Valley of Defilement's Depraved Ones, closer inspection of the model suggests that these enemies use the hyena as a base. You can probably notice some similarities between the two when they're put side by side, such as the legs being roughly the same length and very similar loincloths. Comparing the models' heads, you can see a lot of the same vertices and faces just moved around a bit to make the mesh different. This goes for quite a bit of the rest of the model too, such as the legs. The most notable comparison is these little pouches on their backs, which are identical, which is easily noticeable by loading both models into Blender at the same time. You can even see a bit of Z fighting here. The textures are probably the most blatant evidence that the infested ghouls were based on the hyena. You can see a lot of the same or very similar parts of the body texture, including the leftover pouch. The cloth textures are nearly identical, just bloodier and dirtier with some weird skin parts here. Interestingly though, these parts are not used by the infested ghoul despite being modified from the original texture. Finally, they both use the same ID of C2060, which isn't proof of anything, but another similarity between the two. The last thing I wanted to mention is their outfits are somewhat similar to the old hero's outfit, most notably this leg wrapping, which basically uses the same design. It should also be noted that the wolf's death animation is very similar to the old hero's death animation, though this doesn't mean too much as FromSoft do like to reuse death animations quite a bit. This isn't proof that they are connected to the old hero, but it's worth noting the design similarity at least.